when's not a good time to buy a home? Right now might just be one of those times. Or not. Considering prices are at an all-time high, inventory is on the rise, and markets that show signs of slowing and recalibrating, you know it like I do. And we're all asking ourselves the same question. Should we buy now or should we wait? Today we're gonna go over some pros and cons on buying now or waiting, crunching some real life numbers on buying the median home price today or renting the median home price today, helping you make the right decision whether renting or buying is the right move for you and your family. I'd like to take a quick minute and ask a favor. If you find any value at all in any of my videos, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And if you have, welcome back. Your support helps me to keep making more amazing content for you. Real quick before we dive in, my name is Roly, your local real estate broker here in South Florida for the last 10 years. And as much as I love making these educational videos to show you everything you need to know before moving to Miami, Florida, I love even more helping my amazing real estate clients achieve their real estate goals. So if you or anybody you know might be looking to buy or sell, or might even have a real estate related question, feel free to reach out to me at 786-306-9335, and I would be honored to help serve and support you in any and all of your real estate needs. First thing I want to address is whether or not the housing market is going to crash. With the elections around the corner and many of the doom and gloom videos going around the internet, many are just watching, sitting around, maybe even hoping for the market to crash. At the same time, I see people miss opportunities by being misinformed and following the wrong advice, getting caught up trying to time the market and totally misunderstanding the entire home buying process. I want to say right out the gates, a real estate market crash is tremendously unlikely at the moment. Now, I understand the prices are off the charts and housing affordability is in an all-time low. And if you've been paying close attention, the home you might be looking at buying today was notably cheaper just a few years ago. Guys, this boils down to supply and demand. Since we've seen so much buyer demand in the past years and so little supply in the market, realistically speaking, this is what drives not just the real estate market, but any market. This will continue as it has always done so in history. In other words, for us to see a market crash, we would need the supply to far exceed the buyer demand. Check out this graph from Resi Club that points out the nationwide outlook on the markets. As you can see, overall, we still have more buyer demand, meaning more people are willing to buy than what they are willing to sell. This showing us market stability more than decline in pricing overall. Yes, there's a few markets like South Florida showing higher supply and even some pricing decrease. Yet we don't have a crash, nor are we likely to see one, because all of these markets are distress free. So not only are we gonna need a much higher supply to demand ratio, but we're gonna need a lot of sellers in distress to hit the market, meaning sellers that have to sell no matter what. Essentially, in the face of a crash, these sellers would practically have to give their homes away to sell at all costs, flooding the market with supply, which would ultimately bring a downfall similar to the one we saw in 2008. Keep in mind, what happened back then has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on today. The demise of the market in 2008 was largely due to the large amount of adjustable rate mortgages, or ARMs. Unlike a fixed rate mortgage, ARMs periodically change their rate after the initial fixed rate period. Homeowners who took out ARMs in the crisis leading up to 2008 were hit with a payment shock once those fixed rate periods expired. Many couldn't make these higher payments, which leads us to another important distinction between today and 2008, where the vast majority of borrowers today now have fixed rate mortgages. As a result, even though mortgage rates have more than doubled, current homeowners see no change to their monthly principal and interest payments. Another key difference from today's market to the housing crisis of 2008 is that many more homeowners have equity in their properties today, helping them weather a downturn of events. Recent data from Adam Real Estate Data shows that in the United States, nearly half of the residential mortgage properties are still equity rich, meaning that the combined estimated value of loan balances secured by those homes is at or below 50% of their property value. So unfortunately, if you're one of those waiting for an apocalyptic change to the market, that's just not going to happen. Rather than focusing on market speculation, focus on your own personal circumstances. As we dive into the buy versus rent comparison, it's important to consider where you're at in your life and how this weighs in on your personal circumstances. So back at the start of the video, I said, when's not a good time to buy a home? And right now might just be one of those times or not. The reason is, and let's be real, housing affordability sucks right now. Housing inventory is still low in some markets. And for some buyers, it's expensive buying versus renting. A lot of buyers can't find the property they're looking for. And when you compare that to what they're paying for rent now, it's a little hard to justify those numbers. And this is exactly what we're gonna be going over in just a moment. But now, if you're considering waiting, what are those times when it actually makes sense to wait? First one is planning on being in that home for at least 5 years. If that's not your case, then it's probably a better idea for you to go out and rent a home. The reason being because that 10 to 15% price increase we've seen since the pandemic are now gone. It's very likely that we don't see that growth for the next 5 to 10 years, and that we see more of a 2 to 3% increase on a yearly basis. Now keep in mind, buying a home will cost you money, but selling that same home down the road will also cost you money, meaning you're gonna need those extra years of home ownership to cover the cost of purchase and selling, along with making some equity. Not long ago, I had a qualified buyer ask me, hey, what if I buy a home a bit under my approval odds, live in it 2, maybe 3 years, sell it, and use the equity to buy something a little bit closer to what could be my forever home? Immediately I replied to him, no, that's not a good idea. You're gonna wanna look at something that you can see yourself living in at least 5 years. Because if you've seen some of my other videos, you would know that the best time to buy a home is always gonna be 5 years ago. Now, if you're a young couple, recently engaged, maybe thinking about some kiddos, or a young family of 3 thinking about expanding in the near future, then you most definitely don't want to look at that 1 or 2 bedroom house. You're going to want to set your sights on maybe that 3 or 4 bedroom home, as it's going to give you room to grow in over the next 5 years and maybe even a little longer. Second reason might be perhaps if you don't have financial security at this point, or you don't know where you're gonna be at with your job or career in the next couple of years. You might not even be sure of staying in the city you're currently in. You can even carry these in further into your relationships. Perhaps you might not have that security or stability in those relationships right now, or you might even be on the fence about proposing or moving in with that person. You're definitely gonna wanna get this part of your life sorted before diving into a property, since any of these can affect the most important factor, which is maintaining that home for at least the next 5 years. Now, on the upside, the single most important thing that's gonna happen when you buy a home is you're gonna fix your housing costs, avoiding those inevitable rent increases that are coming your way being a tenant over time. The sooner you can fix your housing expense, the better you'll be in the long run. Ideally, as you get older, your financial stability should increase, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder or making more lucrative deals for your business. So in conclusion, the faster you can fix your housing expense versus surrendering to whatever the renter's market might throw your way, the better you're gonna be long term. If you're someone with job security, a stable relationship, and the confidence to commit, owning a home for at least 5 years or more can be a solid decision. In addition to fixing your housing cost, you're gonna enjoy the equity building part of the process. Keeping in mind, every month you're making those mortgage payments, you're paying down the principal balance on your loan, essentially putting money into a forced savings account that can't be accessed easily, which in all honesty, it's a very good thing because it's just building up in the property. Not to mention, that same property is anticipated to appreciate over time. So you're not just paying down the principal balance of the loan, you're reaping the rewards of that value increasing. This is where I want to show you some real life examples of renting the median home in the nation for $2,100 or buying the median home priced in the nation at $412,300. Now I understand some of you guys are probably thinking, hey, those numbers are not realistic in my area. And I get it, but keep in mind, the higher the price of the rent or the higher the price of the home, the higher the numbers that we're gonna speak about now are gonna be. So indulge me for a moment while we dive in. Let's start with a buying example of that median national home price of $412,300. When making this purchase, let's say you go the FHA route, putting 3.5% down. This will leave you financing $404,832.21 since MIP is added to the upfront cost of an FHA loan. Now let's assume you get a 30-year fixed rate today at 6%. That will bring your monthly payment to $2,427. Now you're probably thinking, no need to go further. You just told me I can rent for $2,100. Why would I buy a home and pay more monthly? Not to worry, we're gonna go over that in just a second. But wait, there's more. Those aren't the only fees that are gonna be associated with the purchase of that home. So far, we've only covered principal and interest being that $2,427. You're also gonna pay property taxes to good old Uncle Sam. Now the national average is 1.1%. Meaning you're gonna pay $379 monthly for taxes on the property. You're also gonna have homeowner's insurance. Let's put that at $100, which in some cases it's gonna be high for most areas in the nation. And last but not least, your mortgage insurance, which is gonna be at $187 a month. So all in, that property you're buying for $412,300 will cost you $3,093 per month to maintain. Now that we've gotten here, I know you're probably thinking, Roly, that's enough. Cut the video right here. I get it. I'll go rent for now. And I see where you're probably getting at that. When analyzing a purchase versus a rent, it's eminent that we look into the future, not today. Visualize 5, 10, maybe even 15 years down the line and think, what would you be paying for rent versus that payment of a mortgage that you would get today? Now, if we do that and you're currently renting for $2,100 a month, it's safe to assume that that rent is probably gonna go up 3% per year, which in this example that we're using, it's gonna take you about 14 years paying rent to get to that $3,093 payment that you would have today if you bought the house. Now think of this and say you've been paying those $3,093 for the last 14 years versus taking 14 years to get up to those $3,093 in a rental. Well, throughout those 14 years of rent, you actually paid $407,893.16 to your landlord, which ultimately just goes to paying their mortgage. The only real benefit being the roof over your head, which I get it, it's important. But what about the forced savings and appreciation? Appreciation and forced savings. This is where the real benefits of home ownership start to kick in. Let me explain. During those same 14 years, you actually paid down the balance of that home to $309,943. This means even if that home did not go up a cent in value, you now have $102,000 in equity. But we all know homes appreciate over time. In fact, the average home in the United States appreciated 4.6% over the last 65 years. This obviously is not a straight line. Some years it could be 2 to 3%, other years it could stay flat, and some years might even have a slight decrease. Taking all of this into account, the average appreciation over the last 65 years is still 4.6%. Let's take it a step further and say that home you purchased appreciated 3% per year over the first 10 years. And in the last 4 years, it remained completely flat with no appreciation. So over that 14-year period, that property only appreciated 30%, which is less than 3% per year. Now that home is worth $535,000, meaning those $102,000 in equity we spoke about earlier is more. Now you actually have $225,000 in equity over those 14 years. And every single month after that, you're paying down your principal balance versus the rent, you guessed it, continues to go up yearly, eventually surpassing that $3,093 payment of the home. In the purchase, you fixed your housing cost, really reaping the full benefits of home ownership. Now, with all that said, I realize this is still a stretch for some of you folks. Some of these numbers might even be different for you. So don't buy because I'm saying it's a good decision to do so at some point in your life. But I do really strongly believe that everyone should position themselves to be a homeowner at some point in their life, even if that doesn't make the most sense for you today. So I would love to know where you're at in your process. Are you waiting? Are you ready to pull the trigger? Why are you doing what you're doing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Deciding to buy a home is the first step. Then you get approved and hit the market in search of your dream home. Keep in mind, buying a home is sometimes the largest financial decision you'll make in your life. So pay close attention, do your homework, and make sure you pick the right professional to help you in your process. All right, that wraps it up for today's video. I hope you guys found it valuable. And again, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. This helps me to continue bringing you this amazing content. And remember, if you or anybody you know is looking to buy or sell here in the South Florida area, or might even have a real estate related question, feel free to reach out to me anytime at 786-306-9335. And it would be an honor to help serve and support you in any and all of your real estate needs. Thank you and have a great day.